Hello, everybody. So, ever since they showed us the in hand images of Covergirl and the box art, and she went up for pre order and everything, well, I guess first I was pretty happy with that because this is one of the figures that was on my kind of wish list before they announced her, and it was cool to see uh, the actual figure in hand, and I thought it looked pretty great. But since they had so much in regard to her box art and accessories that points to Wolverine, I mean, she was the original driver that came with the Wolverine, so it makes sense that they would give it a nod. But I can't stop thinking that they're pointing to Wolverine coming out as a future vehicle. It would make perfect sense to me. So, whatever you think of the actual box art, she is riding in the Wolverine or on top of the Wolverine in her box art. She also has schematics for the Wolverine pulled up on the little tablet that she comes with that tucks into her little pouch on her leg. So that does have my wheels turning, thinking, are they going to put this vehicle out down the road? I feel like it's a totally doable vehicle. So it would make a lot of sense to me if they do pull this out. It's a classic vehicle, and I think it is right in that size range where we would see G.I. Joe classified vehicles, and that they've heavily pointed to it in at least one of the characters. And I believe it does appear in some of the box art, along with other silhouettes and drawings of G.I. Joe vehicles. If I'm not mistaken, there is an image on some of this box art. It might be on one of the deluxe boxes. So that is in essence my reasoning for why I think this might be a likely vehicle to come up down the road. Or if nothing else, why it would be a good idea for them to make this vehicle, or that I feel like whether they do it or not, they're at least considering making the vehicle. Especially when I think about how many times Lenny has referenced future proofing and the world of G.I. Joe and stuff like that. That makes me think, well, maybe they are pointing us in the direction that you can expect this to come down the road, or at least they're doing what they can now, so where when it does come out, it's already kind of been alluded to. And giving Covergirl these certain accessories now makes it fit later if they do come out with it. So anyway, with all that said, that leads to the next question. Are they thinking about doing this as a Haslab project, or is it possible that they might put this out at retail, maybe as a fan channel or Pulse exclusive or something like that? Okay, so I pulled up the Wolverine on 3djoes.com. This is a pretty awesome website to go and look at G.I. Joes. But I really wanted to pull this up because I think it's a great way just to kind of have a visual aid here while talking about this. So, in my opinion, which I'm not a toy maker, I do collect toys, but I'm not in the industry. But in my opinion, this is something that could totally work and not have to be a Haslab. I do think it's probably at the top of the size range they would do for a non-Haslab product or project, what have you. But I don't think this is so big or so complicated that it would have to be a Haslab. I feel like this is something that could be put out just the way they did in Star Wars The Black Series with the Snowspeeder. If anything, I feel like this might be slightly smaller vehicle than a Snowspeeder. note how this one piece is relatively short, be it would be larger at a 6-inch scale. But this could be a separate piece that you attach. It's pretty simple design here. It's like a basic tank with a rocket. It only fits one character. Now, I could imagine Hasbro thinking of all kinds of ways to take something like this and add a whole lot to it in detail, give it moving treads, give it lights, and etc., etc. And a figure, maybe they include a figure that people would really be excited to get that they don't think they would get another way or whatever, and do it as a Haslab and charge $350 or something, just like they tried with that Ghost Rider car. Now, if that's the case, I feel like we would be in another situation like they are with this Ghost Rider car, or we could be, where we're looking at this vehicle that we could imagine fitting within the scale of a regular released vehicle, and feeling like, is this really worth the price here, etc., etc. I feel like they could do something much more exciting with a Haslab for the next G.I. Joe Haslab, whatever that is. I feel like they could do something a lot more exciting than another tank. So I stopped here on this image that shows a comparison between the Wolverine and the Lynx, because if they put out the Wolverine as a release through, say, Pulse or the other fan channels, and they're doing a Slaughter's Marauders line, it would be that much easier for them to go ahead and put out a good vehicle for Slaughter's Marauders, the Lynx here, with very little extra work. They have the whole body already created. All they need to do at that point is make the cannon. So I believe that collectors would totally pay, I don't know, $100, $120, something like that, for a pretty standard Wolverine that comes with one figure, no major bells and whistles like the His Tank, through Pulse or BBTS, what have you. Real quick, I'd like to just compare this vehicle against the His Tank, because they did make that into a Haslab, and I would argue that they could have made a His Tank that wasn't as elaborate as what they did for the Haslab, and I feel like that could also be sold just like they did the Snowspeeder or the First Order TIE Fighter. Now, as far as size goes, this is definitely higher, and probably in the same ballpark as far as length goes. But as you can see here with the His Tank, as opposed to the Wolverine, this one just gives a lot more opportunity to add more stuff, I guess is a way to put it. For example, with the Haslab, this opens up, you can fit more figures in here. The original version fits at least 2 figures, whereas the Wolverine, the original version, only fits 1 figure. By the design of the vehicle, there's nowhere to really open it up and put anybody else inside. You know, you could give it the working treads like they do with the His Tank, and maybe I'm just not thinking creatively enough here, but I don't see where you would add the type of accessories or additions that they gave with the His Tank. There's not a canopy that goes with the Wolverine. The character just kind of sits in the little hole. The mounted missiles on the Wolverine are so iconic to the vehicle. I don't see them switching it up with a different type of gun or whatever, unless, as the His Tank, it did come with a cannon more like the Mauler that you could switch it with. But that wouldn't make much sense to me because the paint schemes are totally different. I could see where they might be able to add lights, but I can't see how they could do it anywhere close to the level as the his tank. There's not necessarily a cockpit that the guy or the figure would sit in that you could give the level of detail as you could with this his tank. So the point here is to say the his tank, just by its original design, its shape, etc., I think gives a lot more opportunity to elevate to the point where people felt comfortable paying $299 for the base offering, which would be the his tank and just the his tank driver. On the other hand, I don't see in the Wolverine where that same amount of opportunity exists. So I really feel like this vehicle should come out in the line at some point, and it should totally be a regular, retail release, not a Haslab. I don't need, and I think a lot of people would agree, this doesn't need to be a totally elevated hundreds of dollars thing. For that, I have some other ideas of what would be great Haslabs for the next go around. And like I said earlier in the video, I feel like it should be something more exciting than another tank. I feel like the Wolverine that we're looking at now and a couple other smaller vehicles could suffice, at least for my way of thinking and for my collection, and I'm sure others agree. But more basic tanks, something that could go out at the same level as a snow speeder, that would suffice for my collection. Like a lot of us, and you could probably tell from my videos, I'm really excited to see what vehicles do come out later in the line. So I'm really excited to see what vehicles do come out later down the line. There's always space to consider, so whatever they come out with, I'm not going to be able to get them all. So I guess maybe selfishly, I hope that the ones that I want most are the ones they come out with first. Anyway, I'll probably make a video in the future that talks about my thoughts about a future G.I. Joe Haslab and what that should be or what that would look like, or what I think the best ideas are, whatever. But I'm going to leave this here. I'm going to toss the question to you guys. What do you think about a Wolverine coming to the G.I. Joe classified line? Do you think that they are alluding to that with the box art and the accessories with Covergirl? And if they do it, do you think they would try to do it as a Haslab? And how do you think that would go over? Or do you think that they might, just go ahead and give it to us? And maybe that's kind of what we could expect for like the size limit for a retail release vehicle. Okay, everybody, with that, I'm going to get out of here. See ya.